Nikki, the new business event strategy for Ireland, it's out to 2030. It's a joint initiative, as I understand it, between Fáilte Ireland, Tourism Ireland, the Department of Tourism and Industry. It's just been published or published relatively recently. Tell us a little bit about it.
Firstly, I'd like to say that the business event strategy is very much welcomed by, I think, the overall private sector. It was very much a key topic at the AIPCO conference in Galway. And I think what's great about it is that it is a collaboration between government, the agencies, and the private sector. And I think it was a big point of conversation because you can have a strategy, but it's so important that we have a structure around that strategy and that the execution and implementation of it takes place. And I think that's why it was such a key talking point at the conference. And often it's the people who have their boots on the ground who are so important in supporting the execution of it. So
Yeah.
number one, fantastic that it's there. The alignment between government, the agencies, and the private sector is so important. In fact, we had some international speakers with us who were so impressed with the alignment and the collegiality between those three the three areas to make anything happen. And I think the other
Yeah.
thing that's great about it is that it's not just about economic growth, it's also about social growth and environmental growth. And I think that's what really makes us stand out. And I know a lot of cities are doing that as well. Like Copenhagen, we had Bettina, who's the deputy director of the wonderful Copenhagen with us last, and they're very advanced in doing this as well. So it was great to compare stories. But in terms of economic growth, the focus on market growth through structured research and business development is key to the strategy in that, when we do attract large international conferences into Ireland, that it's aligned with public policy and I suppose the strategy that sits behind government.
Yeah. How big is business events tourism or business events, if you like, to Ireland at the moment?
Well, it's of huge value. We all know that the metrics are 800 million and then 20,000 jobs. And that's fantastic. And I think probably we're one of the biggest in Europe. But it's not just the 20,000 jobs and the 800 million. I think business events are the whole sector is such a catalyst for economic growth,
Yeah.
social growth, and that creating that widespread benefits across many industries. And also it strengthens Ireland's global position, not just in business tourism, but driving employment, showcasing our knowledge economy, which I am so passionate about. We have wonderful academics, we have wonderful doctors,
Yeah.
we have wonderful research agencies, and by bringing in international conferences into Ireland, we're showcasing that knowledge economy and the impact of that. When a professor or a doctor brings in an international conference, something happens to that person. They become a thought leader, a key opinion leader. They build a wonderful relationship. They're visible, they're credible,
Yeah.
and by being visible, you create wonderful opportunities to create alignment and strategic partnerships with other universities and research agencies.
Yeah, status, credibility, respect. I mean, it all comes with it. And how do we compete? Because it's a competitive global space. I think I saw were business events valued at $3 trillion annually or something like that around the world. How does Ireland compete? Because there's a lot to it, isn't it? As you say, there's the tourism ecosystem, but there's also things like access, infrastructure, our cultural strength. How do we do, or could we be doing better, I suppose, is the question.
We can always be doing better. And that old expression, if you're the most cleverest person in the room, you're the wrong room. Be the most stupidest person in the room. So I always think that's why we bring in our international speakers. It's so important that we have that mindset of improving all the time and looking to what other destinations are doing. But Ireland does have a very strong reputation, even across, obviously our infrastructure, sustainability,
Yeah.
our industry expertise, our global networks. We're fantastic in that. We all know the Irish diaspora is it's a great network of international people. So from a competition point of view, we do have more work to do. There are more affordable destinations,
Yeah.
and that's an ongoing challenge for us. We also need to focus on venue expansion, I think workforce development and cost competitiveness. Oh my goodness,
Yeah,
that's a big one at the moment. And we really do need to focus on that to help maintain our competitive stance and growth in the whole market of business event sector. But we have a very strong presence across technology. If I just look at the academic side first,
yeah,
life sciences, finances, and we're attracting a lot of international business events in that sector. I think our where we're really very strong is our government and tourism agencies, Vulture
yeah,
Ireland, Tourism Ireland, they actively support each other and they actively support all of us on the ground. And I work in a number of countries. We are way ahead. Absolutely. I think our reputation and global ranking, we know that, and I'm sorry just to talk about Dublin here, but we consistently rank amongst the top European conference destinations. Now, that's only based on ICA, and I don't think there's more than that than ICA. I would love to see us doing more research, not just in ICA, actually. If ICA are
yeah,
listening, I'm sorry, but I do think overall we are recognized as leaders in research or education. Our education system is one of the top in the world.
yeah.
Innovation, like we make it's attractive for academic and professional conferences to come into our country. And of course, then we're English speaking, which really helps.
Yeah.
Um,
And air access, things like, the fundamentals of getting here, the language. As you say, we're not necessarily going to be the cheapest destination, but what we have to do is offer value for money, and that whole experiential offering is so important, isn't it?
yeah, and in fact, I think that's one of our core strengths is our people. Now we hear
Yeah,
it all the time. It's very hard to quantify this, but our people are our biggest strength,
yeah,
and that the value of being small is key. I've had previous clients saying it's wonderful to come into Ireland. You just meet one person and they connect you to everyone else who's important.
yeah,
So, and I think that's a big advantage. The cohesiveness
yeah,
and the linkage that we all have is great. I think the established networks we have across academia, business, and government to support bids is very valuable as well. I think we're also becoming a leader in sustainable business events. I think that's really important. We do have a lot of work to do there. I think,
So to unpack that a bit, so if an association conference or a congress comes to Ireland, the sustainability criteria of the destination and the venue have to be front and center, do they?
it really, I
Yeah,
can't stress this enough. And I think we're doing great work. But again, I think it needs to come down through the supply chain.
yeah,
So there's accreditation, there's certification, all the rules are changing in Europe. I won't go into the detail on that, but um, if I'm just thinking of myself as a PCO, where do I go to be certified by the right body?
yeah.
Who's accrediting that body? We've a little bit more work to do in that. And that, I mean, I do think Fáilte Ireland and the Dublin Convention Bureau are doing wonderful work in getting that into place. So we're getting there. Just it needs a little bit more work.
You mentioned the AIPCO conference in Galway. Lots of international speakers, lots of delegates. What was the feeling in the room? Is there kind of buzz and excitement about, next year and the year after? And of course, in your field, Nikki, you're looking sort of 5 years ahead, aren't you?
We are, yeah. So like pretty much have stopped selling for 25 and even some of 26. It's
Yeah,
you're up to 27, 28, 29. And when we're again, if you tie this back to the business event strategy, we're looking at what are the key sectoral strengths that we need to go after, where we can win that business, where we have, for me, it's about finding the talented person.
yeah,
Who is that brilliant person who has that visibility and credibility internationally, and then you align that to where our core strengths are in Ireland. But just to answer your question, so back to the buzz in the room, um, I honestly think it was the best conference. It's our 13th year. Galway did an amazing job, and it just shows the strength of those smaller second tier cities.
yeah,
Um, and our theme was tides of change and kind of growth through collaboration, and they literally lived that.
yeah,
Down to bringing in a Galway hooker that filled the entire back of the room. That's how passionate they were,
Wow.
opening up St. Nicholas Cathedral, having the mayor there, fantastic entertainment. The whole, we walked through the city in a whole building. You had AIPCO, welcome to Galway.
Yeah.
That it just shows the council were involved, the city was involved, all of the venues, the hotels. It was just fantastic. But
Yeah.
the buzz in the room was great because I think the business events strategy, Maria Amelia stood up and spoke about that. Full to Ireland, Paul Mokler, David Boyce. It was a great cross sector of our industry there on stage. Great panel discussions with the likes of Stephen Mean, Jenny Walsh from ICC Belfast, Carla Boersma representing the hotels, and really addressing key issues. Noeline Kavanagh from Ex Machnus did a fantastic session on storytelling, and really what we're trying to do is to make sure everyone in that room who is representing Ireland and going abroad is telling a great creative
Yeah.
story
Yeah.
that
Yeah. Yeah.
differentiates from others. So it was a great conference.
Just back to the business event strategy, Nikki. It's all very good, well, having a strategy, having a great document, and so on. But how is it going to be implemented? Is there somebody keeping an eye on the strategy and the milestones to see if they're, if they're progressing, or are there working groups? Do you maintain that sort of that approach between private sector and government and state agencies?
I think that's critical. We're only as good as the collective. I always say Fáilte Ireland set the strategy, obviously with government. Tourism Ireland tell the story, but it's the boots on the ground who actually bring in the business. So I think it's so important that we all work together, and I think working groups are key to making sure that there's that shared knowledge and
Yeah.
experience
Yeah.
between all of us. Because we're like, I won't be great with Fáilte Ireland, or they won't be great, but I'm great. But together we'll be fantastic. So, and I think building an efficient pipeline for winning bids and hosting international conferences is critical,
Yeah.
and that takes all of us. Um, I think ensuring that those bids are then aligned with government is critical if you really want to get this
Yeah.
strategy right.
Yeah.
So that's on the economic growth side. I think that we're probably doing quite well. Where we do need to do a lot of work is on social growth. Um, and also on the environmental growth. I mean, that's the bit where we do need support, and that's where training is needed throughout the entire supply chain. But
Yeah.
I think recognizing and measuring the social benefits of association conferences is I'm really delighted to see this, because I've been harping on about it for about, I'd say, 20 years. But then the knowledge exchange and how international conference coming into this country impacts so many people is immeasurable.
So, in terms of the legacy and the impact, Nikki, any thoughts on that?
That's probably one of the most challenging areas in terms of execution. Number one, there's a question over who is responsible for that. Is it the association? Is it government? Is it the Convention Bureau? Is it the PCO? Um, And that, I think that depends on whoever's involved in the project. It's something feel very passionate about, so it would be something I'd push. But I do think the work that Fáilte Ireland are doing, they're working with the International Conference on Social Housing, which is one of ours. They're working with the Autism Conference with Noel Mitchell, and bringing in experts to show both the client and the PCO how to create a social impact, and putting a
Yes.
framework around that. I think that's been very valuable. And I often think the best way to execute is by doing and using an example. So, congratulations to Fáilte Ireland for putting that in place and bringing in the experts. But how do we do that for every conference? And
Yeah.
I think that's something that we probably need to do a little bit more education and training around.
As you say, it's a team effort and it's collaboration. And just looking at the brass tacks, business tourists, I think, spend on average 3 times more than a leisure tourist. So it's so valuable to the Irish economy, but also there's all the social good as well. Nikki, congratulations on the conference, great success, and well done on the work that you do, and certainly all your business events colleagues do. And keep it going and keep all those valuable tourists coming to Ireland.
Thank you so much, Owen.